This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Monday morning break with me, Marie Greenhalgh. Today, I'm going to be talking with Alex Edwards about assistive technology.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live. Tune in live at ttradio.org, or to join in the conversation, download the Podbean app and search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TTRadio. Tune in, talk it out with Teachers Talk Radio.
So good morning, everyone, on this beautiful bank holiday weekend. I hope everyone has been having a wonderful time. I know the last half term has been very tough on a lot of teachers and educators out there. GCSE exams have started, SATs have happened. So I just hope that everyone is really taking the time to enjoy this weekend. And if you're on half term next week, make sure you take a break and relax. So this morning we're going to be talking about assistive technology, and later Alex Edwards will be talking about how he uses it in the classroom and beyond with his students. Now, assistive technology is it's a fairly new area for me to research and read about. I have to say I'm possibly a bit behind on some of this, but as I've been reading and researching, I mean, it's just an incredible area that's developing. So I read something this morning: the speed that technology is advancing is ×2 every 18 months. And 89% of big data has been produced over the last 2 years alone. So there's no doubt that this is, a really big area. It's a really big thing. There were some stats that I read, and they were saying that users query Google 8.5 billion times per day. And 58% of internet traffic actually comes from phones. So in 2012, this was only 10%. So the amount that we are accessing the internet and searches and apps and so on has just risen at a huge, has increased at a huge rate. The other one, so this was a report from Tech Jury that came out in April, and the other one, which has made me think, people check their phones on average 150 times daily. I mean, that's like, I don't know if I need to start monitoring how much I'm actually picking it up and checking it. I mean, although I don't wear a watch, so maybe I'm just checking the time. I also had an email through this morning, email update just through to my account, that was an update on all the sort of tips and things that you can use yourself on your own account. So there was things like minimizing distractions by setting focus sessions. There is the ability to use live captions. So, I mean, one of the things it said is that you can then actually, instead of having audio, if you haven't got headphones, but you need to watch or listen to something, that you can just put the live captions on. Another one, make your cursor and your mouse point and the text easier to see and read just by changing the settings. I mean, and that one sounds quite helpful. And of course, using colour filters on your screen. The one that I'm interested in, and I am going to give this a try later, is using voice typing. So this is using online speech recognition. And I just think, that could be really, really helpful. So it was also Global Accessibility Awareness Day on the 18th of May. And I was really interested to read about some of the developments that came out of that. So there was a new feature that's been released called the personal voice feature. And this is where users can actually make a digital clone of their voice. And apparently you can do that within 15 minutes. And it's aimed at people who are at risk of losing their voices, so maybe through neurological conditions. And I know the Motor Neuron Association sort of commented on how good a development that could be. But obviously, the Teachers Talk Radio, so thinking about the classrooms and education. So there was a report by the British Dyslexia Association, and they did some research in 2022. And the report's just come out, and they were saying that with 1 in 10 people in Britain having dyslexia, there is a big need. So it's saying children in every school should be introduced to assistive technology to help establish a common ground and an equal footing among students, and help raise awareness of the benefits of incorporating technology within mainstream teaching and learning. So it included several assistive technology recommendations to improve outcomes for people with dyslexia, especially in education. So they're saying, alongside raising awareness of assistive technologies, the benefits of intervention, early years intervention, carry into adulthood. So that this understanding of the benefits of assistive technology translates into a greater availability of technology across workplaces. And this would create a much more equal environment throughout the individual's life and reduce inequalities in social and public spaces. So yeah, I mean, I think the outcomes from this could really impact someone's life long term. The point they do make, though, and I think that this is important, is that teachers need to receive training on assistive technologies that children might use in the classroom, because otherwise it's, you're sort of saying, yes, we need to do this, and yes, these children need it, but who actually is going to do it and who's got the skills? So they have said, the British Dyslexia Association have been quoted that the UK government's SEND and Alternative Provision Improvement Plan was actually a missed opportunity for assistive technology. So they argue that while the government's plan to roll out assistive technology training to school staff, it's only 150 schools, and they've said, although this is a welcome step, this does need to be rolled out to all schools rather than a limited number. Another part, and a rather really important part of the report, was where they presented evidence to and shared insights with the Commission about improving access and uptake of latest assistive technologies by dyslexic people. So yeah, they believe that assistive technology would become normalised uniformly for generations who have seen and interacted with the technology from an early age. So yeah, they really interesting stuff coming out of that as well. So what we will do now is, I'm interested in your thoughts on any of that. So what we'll do now is we're going to hear from Alex.
This programme has been brought to you by the Happy Confident Company. Our clinically approved, ready-to-go wellbeing and mental health programme will help your pupils thrive. In only 10 minutes a day, you'll be able to deliver social and emotional learning and wellbeing tools throughout your school. To find out more, visit us at www.happyconfident.com.
Good morning to Alex, and thank you for joining us today. We are going to talk about assistive technology today. So thank you very much for joining us. Can we just start right at the top? What is assistive technology?
Okay, thank you for having me. Assistive technology is an area that covers a whole range of subjects and devices and uses. It's products and systems that support and assist individuals with disabilities, restricted mobility, or other impairments to perform functions that might otherwise be difficult or impossible. In other words, it's used to increase, maintain, or improve functional capabilities of individuals with disabilities.
That sounds fantastic. I'm really interested in this. I think it's quite a sort of emerging area, I guess, for education and life, I suppose. So assistive technology, so we're kind of assisting people to be able to access more opportunities and education and things like that. I guess sort of leveling the playing field in a way. So what I'm interested in particularly is, I think there's this area of using assistive technology in the classroom, which is probably quite well known, and there'll be a lot of people listening back to this who would be quite familiar with using things like a laptop to type, to record learning. and various other things like that. I mean, there's all sorts you can do on a laptop now, isn't there? I think you can get graphic overlays on your screen. In terms of differentiation, you can kind of change the font, change the size and things like that. But I'd like to hear from you how you are using it, because I think this is quite different and this is quite, I'm really excited by this.
So at the college, and in any school or educational setting, there's so many unique needs and different students with varied needs. And I think using devices that support them to level the playing field is so important. And I think assistive technology, it just caters to the needs and improves functional capabilities. I think assistive technology works in any device, in phones or laptops or iPads, and there's just features that make things easier. And it doesn't give you an advantage over others, but it just levels it. So we use iPads now, and we've started a new scheme which just allows students to learn in different contexts, through maths and English, but through things that basic book work maybe wouldn't be possible with others. So just developing things like touch and sensory development, or routines, early interaction, timing, through games. I think you can mask a lot of learning behind games, which I enjoy. I think it's really important to be able to use the iPads for fun as well, so it doesn't become such a boring task.
That's really good. I love that. So, I mean, there's no doubt, is there, that gaming is very, very popular with young people, with a lot of people of all ages. And I love this idea of perhaps those that are a bit reluctant to engage with, bookwork, as you said, or worksheets, or even just reading it off a screen. If you're bringing in these games, you're increasing their ability to engage with the learning, and it's so much so they might not even realise they're doing it. I mean, there's amazing apps out there, aren't there, that can make learning fun. I'm interested as well, I think, in this what you've said about timing and things like that. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Yes, there's lots of games people with that struggle with motor skills. There's things like, football games where you can kick the ball when you tap it at a certain time, or answer a maths question at a certain point. We have a new maths game on the iPad that I've just put on there recently, where it's like a story, and you have to use the maths to pass certain levels. So it's the same questions you would get on a basic worksheet, but it's more entertaining, and it's using your hands in different ways. So maybe someone that would just never write with their hands with a pen, or never type on a laptop with a keyboard, they're more than happy to type on an iPad, because it's so similar to their phone. And I think that's the way things are going now, is through phones and through technology. So I don't think using the iPads affects normal writing skills, because everyone's typing on their phones these days.
That is so true. I mean, my handwriting is just getting worse and worse and worse, I think, because I'm always just texting or typing. So when I do write something, I can't struggle to read it myself. That is fascinating, actually, because what you've talked about is different levels of engagement and actually meeting a lot of different needs. So, you've talked about the maths game. So, developing maths skills, is a central life skill. You're talking about developing their fine motor skills and their coordination through the timing of the game. And then I think, it's just striking me, it's about confidence as well, isn't it? I know that we see it a lot, particularly probably with further education. There can be a real barrier to accessing the education. So say sitting down and doing a maths lesson, and trying something, this growth mindset, that I can't do it, but I'm going to try and I can improve. All of that can be incredibly difficult for someone who's got low confidence and low confidence in themselves as a learner. But I guess it's very normal for them to go on a phone or an iPad. So you're really getting them to engage with maths on that level as well. That's so interesting. This assistive technology is allowing you to meet lots of different needs in one activity. So the other thing I know that we've talked about in the past, and quite interested to talk about more, is using assistive technology outside of the classroom. so sort of enabling them to become more independent out and about. So should we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So the iPads are really great, and any sort of accessibility features you can put on your phone, because they are for life skills. And I think it's about, with certain, especially the students at the college, when they're getting older to sort of 19, 20, maybe they've passed their maths and English, it's about sort of preparing them for the real world. And I think by using technology, it's an easier way of integrating them into normal life. So it can be things like scanning road signs, and it reads for you. There's different features for blind people which can be used for anyone, which would be, you point your phone and it just describes things it sees. So you could point your phone at the water bottle and it will say blue water bottle or white bowl. And I think it's just, and you can point that at anything, a menu, a road sign, your laptop, a worksheet, a maths worksheet. It could be anything. It could be a job application. And I think the iPads just allow you to integrate seamlessly into adult life. I think that there's another thing called Dragon's Speech, and I think you can download that on any sort of laptop, or Dragon's Breath, and you just speak and it types everything for you and puts the grammar in. And I think it's just great. Anyone can use that, even if you're good at typing, because it makes things easier. And I think we should be using technology now just to cut out tasks that waste our time. I think just being able to speak, it can optimize your sort of workflow much better. I think everyone should be using accessibility features. I think not just people that need it. I think you won't know you need it until you try it. I think there's so many things I use just from training courses that I've learned just make things much easier.
That is great. I think I need to know a bit more about that, because as you said, it's not only for the students, but actually we're going off into kind of staff time mastery and staff well-being as well. And like you said, this job, this working in education, can be very pressured. I think the one resource people always say they need more of is time, and that's quite difficult to give that to people. So you're right, this could be wider, couldn't it, within a school or a college or an education centre, is you bringing in this assistive technology to assist people in their jobs. And yeah, I'm definitely going to have to look up the Dragons one, because that sounds fantastic. Takes me ages to type as well. So yeah, anything, like you said, if you can just be talking and it gets it all down for you, that's really amazing. I was thinking about when you said about taking the photo and it tells you. I mean, like you said, just road signs, for example. So if we think of somebody who's got SEND needs or visual needs and barriers, going out to... That's my email notifications. Excuse that. So, you think, if I put myself in their shoes, or someone's shoes, and you think of someone who wants to go out and get the bus, or wants to go to the shops, or wants to attend, they're a young adult or an adult and they want to attend an appointment on their own. But if you can't understand the road signs, or you are worried about getting lost and not knowing where to go, that must be daunting, if not really frightening. So actually just to have that in your pocket, that you can take it out and no one's going to bat an eyelid, and to have that ability to develop your independence, I think that's an amazing thing to do. I think there's just so much to go with this. Okay. So some of the benefits then. So I mean, we've touched on some, but can we sort of go through the benefits that you've noticed? Yeah.
So another thing with the assistive technology, like what you were saying about the road signs, we have another thing we're trying to integrate, which is virtual reality. So it would be, instead of preparing for the road signs by going out with your phone, you can live these experiences in a comfortable environment. So there's different things we're trying to set up now, which would be learning how to just get on the bus and take that to the town centre and go into a shop. And it's just about putting the headphones on and the headset over your eyes and just feeling the experience of being out in public, or being out in an environment maybe it'd be really difficult to sort of understand unless you were there. I think it's very hard to teach someone about real life situations unless they live it themselves. So I think by using these features, we can prepare people for things they would never understand. So I think it's just amazing that we can teach them how to walk to the shop or go to a job interview. I think there's ones on that now, or boarding a plane, or just taking a walk.
Wow, that's fantastic. I was thinking, that's making me think of when I was first learning to drive, or when I first passed my test, and I was a very, very anxious driver about going places that I didn't know. So what I would do then is I'd look it up, but I'd look the route up, and then I'd do it on the street view, and I'd kind of zoom in each area so I could see what the roundabout looked like, or what the junction looked like, and sort of check it all out. I mean, which is, a little bit time consuming. But this is, virtual reality. Wow. So you put the headset on and you can give them the opportunity to practice. But the important bit that you said there is they're doing it in a safe, comfortable place. So, somebody with very high anxiety, you could have their member of staff with them, so that if they start to get really, they're getting that emotional support and safety, whilst this gentle step of experience through virtual reality. That's great. That's really great.
So going into the benefits of assistive technology, I think using the headset allows you to sort of listen and feel and read, but then also using the iPads you can learn to write, to touch, and cover all senses. So I think using them together, or there's so many other devices for assistive technology that we'll start to integrate at the college. But I just think students have so many different learning styles, and the iPads can serve as a multi-purpose learning tool that they can customise based on their own needs. And I think it allows students to become more aware of their own needs by using these devices. They would maybe learn the things they need to improve on themselves, which I think learning from your own use of it might be more beneficial for them than us to tell them.
Oh gosh, yeah, exactly. So, they might have both strengths that they didn't realise they had, but also that kind of realisation, that self-reflection, which is, that's ultimate in learning, in a learning journey, isn't it? Is to be able to reflect back on, well, that's an area I need to improve on, and like you said, by using all these different technologies and apps and tablets and so on, and then I guess then going on to normalise it by it being transferable over to their phones. Is it all about increasing their independence? Yeah, there's so many benefits, isn't there?
Yeah. And I think they can transfer onto their phones, or if they have a tablet, even better. But it's just preparing them here while we have time with them, and recommending things they can teach their own friends. I think, and by spreading the word about assistive technology, it will help everyone out.
Yeah, absolutely agree. It's something that I'm really interested in, but until we've started talking now, I hadn't thought about applying it to myself. So now I think we're going to have to talk further afterwards about the things that I can try out to make my life a bit assisted. I think you said it a bit earlier on, and I thought I'll come back to that, because we're talking about this is the way of the future, and it is, isn't it? Technology. Is more and more part of our daily lives. We haven't really touched on AI, and perhaps that's the topic for another show, because there's a lot in that. But it is the future, and I guess it's going to develop their skills that are going to be more current and more applicable to employment. So that's amazing. So I think what we'll do is we're going to go into the news now, and then if anybody's got any messages they'd like to text into the show while we're doing that would be amazing. Love to hear your thoughts on this. And then I think, in the to aim for balance, we'll just talk about if there's any drawbacks afterwards.
Okay, thank you.
Right, so thank you for sticking around, Alex, and coming back after the news. And so, drawbacks. What are the drawbacks of this? Because, at the moment, it's just sounding, frankly, fantastic and all the benefits. But are there any drawbacks that you've come across? I know it's relatively new, this programme that you're devising and leading on, which, congratulations, by the way, that's great. But yeah, what drawbacks have you come across so far?
I think the only real drawbacks is the fact that it is just such a growing and developing area, which the concept has been around for a long time of using assistive technology. It's been around, to use for ages, but the field is growing. So I think the drawback is that there's just not too many businesses selling devices yet that the public can access as easily. So I can't see any huge drawbacks of assistive technology, as all it's there for is to improve students' capability or anyone's capability, or assist people to carry out any daily tasks or tasks at work. So unless you worry about people relying on it heavily, but looking at the way the world is moving, like I said earlier, everyone now relies on technology to perform their daily tasks anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't think assistive technology brings you down in any way, other than that obviously it's used online or with devices. So unless you have the devices, but then that's what it's there for. It's there to prepare you for these situations and maybe teach you how to be more independent. So without the devices, hopefully you would still have the skills that you've learned to go out into daily life anyway.
Yeah, great point. Yeah, because it doesn't have to be in entirety, does it? It could be a stepping stone. So, maybe at first you are using, I don't know, let's say alarms to set yourself reminders. And I know I do that. And I name the alarms all different things if I know I've got to remember something very important. So, you could be doing that, but then as you get into a routine, you might be able to lessen the number of alarms you've got going off all day long, maybe. That's a good point. I guess keeping up with it, that's not a drawback, but that's something to consider, isn't it? As you said, the amount of the technological advances that are, our speed of developing, or not ours personally, I haven't developed anything, but the way technology is developing is incredibly fast, and I guess you need to be aware of keeping up with that. But I'm guessing kind of tech and, like you said, gaming, enjoy gaming and things like that. I guess if it's an area of interest of yours personally, is it something you feel you kind of keep up with anyway, you're interested in?
Well, yeah, I think as it is now an area of my job, I think I'm always looking at different ways it's growing and different businesses that are now starting up. And I think it's not too hard to keep following and keep going with it. But there's different things now like artificial intelligence that I think, one day we'll all be using, and I think we do already use it without knowing. But I think the benefits they completely outweigh any sort of negatives with assistive technology. So there's no reason why anyone should be scared to use it. I think all it's going to do is make your life easier. You just have to do your own research, because it can get there's a lot to learn.
Yeah, there is a lot to learn, but you're right. Who doesn't want something that's going to make their life easier? Oh, okay. So great. So not many drawbacks. I mean, I guess one consideration is financial, isn't it, and resourcing, as with many things. But all right. So have you got some? Can you sort of talk to us about some examples, some real life examples, lived examples of how this has been working?
Yeah, so obviously we use it daily through maths and English on the iPads, and we have our own sort of interface and intranet through something called BKSB, which is iPad compatible, so it's perfect because we were already using that on laptops. So the fact we now use it on the iPad and use the accessibility features just makes it great. But they have so many features, so all students have found ways to benefit from them when using the devices. I think the initial novelty of using the device, like an iPad or a VR headset, can be a great icebreaker when trying to get students to use a device. So this then opens them up to a world of new capabilities for them to face challenges and things that maybe they just gave up on before, like being able to write an email, a formal email. They might just not even think about the fact that they can do it now just by speaking. So I think now we've got students applying for jobs, and I think we have students that are lower level with maths and English, and they're a bit younger, and they weren't confident on a laptop or with a pen. But now by using an iPad, it allows them to grow much faster, and now they're thinking about applying for jobs just from the confidence of finding a device or something that works for them.
That's great. That's another example, isn't it, of just this multi-level, going right down from meeting the need of increasing their confidence, to icebreaker. Yeah, I love that kind of the idea of breaking the ice to access the learning, to the actual outcome at the end that they can apply for a job. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So yeah, it just makes students happy, and we've had certain individuals that are just happy to try maths and English now, or the concept of learning, because they've got a device they're comfortable using and happy touching and typing on. We've got other students that love quizzes, and now we can create our own together by passing the iPad around the room and using the speech to text feature, and it's just fun to speak to the iPad and it types for you. But they don't realise that they're building so many skills at the same time. And I think by using a fun device or something so interactive, they're learning without even knowing. And I think afterwards you can explain to them the different skills they've learned and the different things they've built. But I think in the moment it's just amazing that people don't understand they're learning and they're developing such a huge skill.
You've used some of my favourite words there to do with education. So happy, the students are happy to do it, fun, and that, like you said, the interacting. So not only with you, as their teacher, but building these quizzes together and passing it round the room so that everybody's interacting. That's just great. And then that, I think that's so important, that bit you said at the end, helping them realise what they've learnt. Because you're right, they're having fun, they're happy, they're engaged. Quizzes are great, as an example. And then you're spending the lesson and you've all got this great quiz and having a brilliant time. And then you take that time at the end of the lesson to go, do you realise what you've learnt today? Do you realise all those skills you've used? You've used communication, you've used English skills, you've used technology skills, you've used general knowledge, you might have used research skills to kind of find out the questions and answers for the quiz. So helping them see, and then I guess they'd reflect back and go, oh my gosh, I did loads today, and actually I want to do it again tomorrow. And if that's not a successful lesson, then I don't know what is.
Yeah, it opens them up to the fact that they can learn. I think there's lots of students that put up the barrier straight away, like, oh, I don't want to be taught. But I think by doing it without realising and then speaking to them about what they've learned, it makes them understand that they still have room to grow in so many areas. And I think the iPads or any device just allows you to feel more comfortable learning. And there's other examples, like that we have this young man who loves art, but he really struggles to use a pencil. And I think he has so many bright ideas. He loves art as an idea and as a subject, but he just really struggles to do it himself. And since using the iPads, every day he's now wanting to do art and drawing, and he's colouring things in and printing things off and putting it in his folder, putting it up on the wall in the classroom. It's just made him confident that he is able to do art, but maybe he thought previously that it was just something he enjoyed looking at. Now he can do it himself by using an iPad. That's
amazing. So not only is he doing it himself, he's confident enough to put that up on the wall for everyone else to see. That's brilliant. That is amazing. Do you know, it just made me think. I actually posted something last week of an activity I did with one of my students, and we listened to music. So we were listening to some quite classical music, and then from that she was then describing sort of I guess like creative writing, but it was verbal. She was describing a scene that the music was making her think of, and I did the same. And then we used an AI art generator app, and we experimented around with our prompts, and you need to kind of work that out then we used that to generate pictures of the images that this music had created. I mean, it was fantastic, and it's linking, isn't it, bringing out all that creativity, but removing the barrier of perhaps low self-confidence, or worry about whether you can actually physically do it. Like you said, if he was very reluctant to pick up a pencil. Wow, amazing.
Yeah. So there was I think using AI is also another area that I'd like to build more on, and I think I found a new site recently that you can use prompts for English skills or writing stories. And I think there's some people that think they're not creative or they're not able to think of new ideas. And one boy I was working with in a group the other day, we were using AI to give us prompts for creative writing stories. And I just think it allows, by using technology to sort of spark conversation or using AI as prompts, it allows you to sort of bounce off of that and then be creative from that. So I think in any sort of area, using artificial intelligence is going to be huge.
This is amazing. Actually, I'm just thinking back of all the topics we've covered. So we've gone from maths and English to creativity to life skills, to getting out independently in the community, to increasing employability. We've done fun, happy students, communication, interaction. I mean, this is, I guess anyone who's not started to think about bringing these things in, there's so many benefits to it.
Yeah, and I think I've said a lot about iPads, but I mean you can do this on your phone as well, just as easily. But I think there's no reason why you shouldn't try it, and just to see how it helps your life. And if you work in an education setting, maybe suggest that these things might improve engagement from students. And by any sort of device, you can get these features on laptops or computers still. You won't have the touch or the sort of interaction that an iPad can bring, but there's so many things, like we were saying, with the AI or just the VR you can do with your phone. There's sort of 360 cameras that you can scroll on your phone. You don't have to have the full equipment to be able to delve into the plethora of sort of situations.
There is so much that I did not know about this. We're definitely going to talk more about this 360 camera.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm starting to feel like a bit of a technophobe. I am not up on all this, but it's amazing that you are, and it just sounds so successful and so great. And I think your students, there's no doubt that your students are benefiting from this. So that's amazing. So any final thoughts or top tips?
I think, well, if you have an Apple device, I think there's a whole website made by Apple about the accessibility features, and I think just as a bit of homework for anyone listening, just to go on their website, the accessibility department on Apple's website, and just look at the huge amount of things that you didn't know your phone could do. I think just utilize the things that you've already paid for, you already have, and Android devices also have accessibility features. So I think just try it. Try the different text sizes. Try the different text-to-speech features. Just try type an email using the microphone. I think just have a go, and I think you'll realise how useful these things can become.
Right, that is on my to-do list for today. Compose an email using a voice app. Right, fantastic. So if anyone, Alex, you've been so informative. This is a fascinating area. Like I said, like we keep saying, it's emerging. There's a lot to keep up with, but if anyone who's listened wanted to kind of, get in touch and let us know either things you've tried, or if you want to kind of ask, or if Alex can provide any advice, then you can. Obviously, you can contact me through Teacher Talk Radio, or you can tweet me, and then we will happily carry on the conversation with everyone. But Alex, thank you so much for joining us, taking the time out for your busy teaching day. We really appreciate it, so thanks ever so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great. I've really enjoyed it.
This programme has been brought to you by the Happy Confident Company. Our clinically approved, ready-to-go wellbeing and mental health programme will help your pupils thrive. In only 10 minutes a day, you'll be able to deliver social and emotional learning and wellbeing tools throughout your school. To find out more, visit us at www.happyconfident.com.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News.
The debate around immigration took a turn towards education this week as the UK government announced that foreign postgraduate students on non-research courses will no longer be able to bring family members to the UK. According to the BBC, the University of Wolverhampton has already criticised the new plan. Whilst Prime Minister Rishi Sunak said the move would help bring migration down, Dr. Rachel Morgan-Guthrie from the university said students who came with a support network were more likely to succeed. Last year, 135,788 visas were granted to dependents of foreign students, nearly 9 times more than in 2019. In the same period, 680,000 foreign students studied in the UK. There was also division within the government as some wanted to see the ban on dependents extended to all postgraduate students, whilst others, including Education Secretary Gillian Keegan, argued that there were economic benefits both to universities themselves and the wider community. Vapes have regularly appeared as a topic of concern for many teachers, and a recent report into substances found in illegal vapes is likely to raise further issues. The BBC reports that vapes confiscated from school pupils contained high levels of lead, nickel and chromium. The results of the test showed that children using them could be inhaling twice the safe limit of lead and 9 times the safe amount of nickel. High levels of lead exposure can affect the central nervous system and brain development. The majority of the vapes analysed were deemed illegal and had not been tested before being sold in the UK. So-called highlighter vapes, designed in bright colours to look like highlighter pens, contained unsafe levels of the metals coming from the e-liquid. The government has allocated £3 million to tackle the sale of illegal vapes, but critics say it is not enough to deal with concerns around the number of children gaining access to these products. In Scotland, school meal debt could be scrapped in some additional areas after North Ayrshire Council agreed an action to investigate the impact the debt was having on families and schools. Head teachers of local schools are regularly reminding parents they owe money, according to the story in the Daily Record. 12 councils across Scotland have already abolished this type of debt. The increase in families struggling with paying for meals has been attributed to the cost of living crisis. Many schools have reported parents struggling to feed children and resorting to sending pupils to school with inadequate packed lunches or, in extreme circumstances, keeping children off school to avoid accruing more debt. Finally, and staying with the topic of food, STV reports that in Glasgow, free school meals have been so popular that head teachers have had to stagger lunch times to ensure everyone can eat comfortably. The increased uptake of children in P1 to P5 accessing a free meal has again been attributed to the cost of living crisis, meaning more families are needing to access certain benefits. But at least everyone is getting a good meal, and the staggered breaks have helped kitchens and dining halls to cope. This has been your Teachers Talk Radio News with Joe Fox.
This is 2 Minute Tech with Steve Woods, your tech briefing on Teachers Talk Radio.
Hello, this week I'm considering how easy it is to get distracted when researching on the internet. I'm putting myself in the shoes of a young person and have set myself a task of writing a report on the greatest invention of all time. I'm also not going to use ChatGPT. So, the first online search showed a lot of people claim the wheel is the greatest invention, and let's face it, there are a lot of them around. There are 9 million bicycles in Beijing, and that's a fact. That's 18 million wheels just on bikes in one city, if we assume nobody has a tricycle. This led me to want to know how many bicycles there are in the world. The answer I found was an estimated 1 billion. That's 2 billion wheels, again assuming nobody has a tricycle. Now I want to know how many wheels are there in the world. Another search tells me there's an estimated 37 billion, 24 of these billion being toys, and the next biggest share of 8.4 billion being on cars. A quick scan of the results page poses an additional question I hadn't considered. Are there more doors or wheels in the world? Well, I simply have to know. In a few clicks I find out it's estimated there are 48 billion doors in the world. So based on this research there are more doors, and isn't a door a great invention? Yet it's not been proposed as one in my prior searches. And if there are that many doors, how many hinges must there be? The amazing thing about the internet is that there's always an answer, and the way search engines deliver those answers are designed to keep you interested and active. So potentially you see more ads and make them more money, which doesn't help get that report written, does it? Does your school teach young people how to research effectively? Do our young people realise how much they are advertised at? I'd love to hear your thoughts. As always, why not get in touch at TT Radio Official? I'm Steve Woods, and that was 2 Minute Tech.
2 Minute Tech with Steve Woods, your tech briefing on Teachers Talk Radio.
Well, that was such an interesting 2 Minute Tech, and highly relevant actually to everything that we've just been talking about. As I was listening to that, I was remembering when that question was going round, and I know we discussed it at work a lot. And there was team wheels and team doors, and I don't think at the time that we found the answer, but I'm pretty sure I remember that I said doors, so I'm quite pleased with that to hear that. On a more serious note, that what Steve just said there about are we teaching our students how to research effectively? I mean, that's something really to think about, I think, actually, because especially when you're researching online and you're kind of going down these rabbit holes of all this information. I mean, it's so different, isn't it? And I do sometimes say to the students that it is times have changed. I mean, I remember when I was at school or college or uni, if you had a project, you had to go to the library, and then there were reference books that you couldn't take home. They're absolutely massive, and you'd have to block that time, I guess, go to the library and write your notes, and then go home and write it all up. I mean, now we've just got this absolute wealth of information coming, at our fingertips, literally at our fingertips. So perhaps the new skill to be developing was, is how to do that without getting distracted, how to use the internet to research effectively. I think the point about adverts as well, do they realise how many adverts they're getting? I would say probably yes. I think I think our students maybe are a little more aware of it than we are as adults sometimes. And it's that thing, isn't it? Once you search something, if we're going back to that statistic that I said earlier, that users are querying Google 8.5 billion times per day. So we're just looking stuff up. But then there's the algorithm, isn't it? Then the things you're searching for are going to pop up everywhere on your Instagram feed. That those is going to tailor the adverts to your search history, which could be useful or maybe not. So just to finish on a few thoughts. So there was something Alex said that I just wanted to expand on slightly, that we didn't at the time. So he talked about being able to customize your tablet or your iPhone, and there is actually Apple have got a new thing where I'm just going to find where it is, but as well as features for speech accessibility, Apple have announced a cognitive disability setting called Assistive Access, which essentially lets you pare your device down to a few core apps of your choosing. And then you can choose to have them arranged in a grid or a list. It simplifies the interface down to large, easily readable buttons. So you can make calls, you can access an emoji-only keyboard without all the clutter going on. So I think originally some companies did this because it was for devices for more senior users that strip away the bulk and that deliver sort of quite a simple user interface. But with Apple's new assistive access feature, those with sort of cognitive needs and barriers will be able to take advantage of using that mainstream iPhone device and just customize it to themselves, to their needs, which, I mean, that's really fantastic. There was a lot more that came out about Global Accessibility Awareness Day as well. So there was some they called it was a nice article. So they called it Hopeful Announcements. So the purpose of Global Accessibility Awareness Day was to get everyone talking, thinking and learning about digital access and inclusion, and what can everybody do to make the digital world more accessible. So they looked at actually homepages and websites and things, and found that 66% of them were sort of missing things like image out text. There was 59% had empty links. So there is a lot more that we can do right from your kind of your websites or your school websites, making sure everything's accessible. But as well as the ones that we've kind of talked about, the big ones like Apple and Google and things like that, there was quite a lot in the gaming. There was quite a lot of gaming announcements. So Epic Games announced the inclusion of items to raise awareness in Fortnite, and then PlayStation are bringing out a new inclusive controller. So there's a lot going on, sort of not just as we've discussed in the classroom, but there's a lot going on outside as well. So I think that I'm someone I think who's maybe sometimes daunted by new tech. I mean, it's always been something that I feel slightly out of my depth with sometimes. So I think to hear from someone like Alex, who's really up on all of this and really thoughtful about it, it does make it more accessible to me. I think, yeah, okay, there is a little bit of a time investment maybe to go and do my homework, as he said, find out. But he makes a really good point. We've got these things already, so why not find a few things that are going to help you, or help others? So it's not that you have to sort of jump in and use everything. So there is that aspect. As we've talked about, as Alex and I have talked about, there's in the classroom, there's academic, but the one that I'm really interested and very passionate about taking forward, I think, is this thing about independent adult living, preparing our students, preparing our children. I mean, going back to the thing with the dyslexia association report, the earlier you do it, the better, the greater the impact long term. So, if you've got students, children who find it difficult to access their communities, difficult to access the wider world, and have anxieties about sort of being independent, then all of this technology is going to help. I just think it's brilliant. The other aspect to it is staff. So there was a really interesting article that I was reading from Educators Technology, and it's all about key digital skills for the 21st century teachers. So what it was saying is technology has become a major player in your pedagogy. So this was even before the outbreak of the pandemic, but some teachers maybe didn't want to acknowledge that, or maybe shied away from it, maybe a lack of confidence there. But obviously the sudden disruption caused by the pandemic and school closures, and we just had to jump in, didn't we, with this new mode of teaching and learning, and this remote learning and very, very quick, fast upskill to be able to deliver learning through technology. So now that we've moved on a bit from that, it is a fact that the technology is here to stay. So for us in education, there's certainly a new sort of hybrid, I guess, of sort of using the technology, but then also having this, I guess, old school kind of way of delivering and teaching. And I think it's a really good thing to have a mix. And obviously we've all got to play to our strengths. This hybrid type of teaching does require quite a specific set of skills and competencies. Ones that kind of, people know about the power of the digital tech world, transforming how we teach and imparting knowledge. As I've already said, it's not an area I feel especially confident in myself, but that's so I think one of the factors is staff having the time going back to that time thing, having the time and the resources to develop their own digital skills. This kind of, skills that you kind of need, I guess, is kind of the skills around collaborative work. There's a lot, isn't there, out there in kind of blogs and YouTube videos and articles, and going back to the research skills. I mean, creating content, but and just as Alex has been talking about, literally just keeping up with all these apps that are coming out, these apps and sources of assistive technology. And I think finally on this bit, it's evaluating the content. So the internet is full of all kinds of stuff. So you don't want to kind of waste your time on the ones that are, the knowledge isn't quite right, or that it's factually incorrect. I guess it's back to sort of fact checking, isn't it? So the sources need to be kind of accurate and reliable and credible. So just checking right from the beginning the background and the assessment of the content. And again, that's something it's going to need time for a member of staff to be able to do that, to trial the apps, to get feedback from students about what's working and what's not working. But with all of that, there's no doubt in my mind that this is the way. So we do need to give time to teachers. I mean, certainly not everyone, but some teachers having the time to develop their key digital skills, enabled to be able to help students access it. And then the very last thing I thought of, or I've been thinking and we've been talking about, is this impact, or perhaps these benefits, sorry, not impact, but benefit for staff in using these things themselves. So all these things that we time-saving devices, those kind of things could have a real big impact. I mean, I'm certainly going to kind of try it. Like I keep saying, I'm going to try some of them and then come back with, certainly, discuss which ones worked for me and which ones didn't. So if anyone who has been listening and thinks, oh, actually, yeah, that gosh, I could save so much time if I just talked instead of typing, or any of the other organisational things that we've talked about. If anyone's got any thoughts, then please do tweet after the show, and you could do that through Teachers Talk Radio account, or I'm on Twitter as Marie Greenhalgh, but I've got an 8 at the end of my name. But yeah, thanks everyone who's joined this morning. It's been really great, and I really appreciate you joining, especially on a bank holiday Monday. And anyone who's listening back afterwards, thank you so much. It's been a really interesting show for me today, and I feel like I've learned a lot, and I've got a lot to go away and try.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.